This is the Against the Current podcast. Against the Current is a faith-based counseling ministry that helps individuals, couples, and families experience emotional, mental, relational, and spiritual transformation through biblically based principles with one-on-one counseling, workshops, and seminars. If you want to find out more, head on over to atcmcounseling.com.
Hi there. Welcome back. And this is Katya, and I'm coming here to you today on this podcast on this lovely day to talk to you about anxiety. So I decided to continue with our talk on boundaries next week, but take a quick break from boundaries today and talk about anxiety based on some things that I've been seeing with counseling and just dealing with different people and different things that are going on. And anxiety is really taking a lot of people off guard, especially in this season now. It's a problem in general. A lot of people suffer from anxiety, but especially right now, I know the uncertainty of what might happen, what's going on. It can cause a lot of fear and worry, and which can lead to physical symptoms and so on. So I just decided to talk about that just for a few minutes because we all need to hear this. We all need to be alert and ready to attack and to fight whatever it is that's keeping us in bondage. So, and on that note, I want to start off by saying, the goal is always freedom. So remember that word, freedom, because we can live in bondage, mental bondage, and that is not the best life that we can live. So all of us want to live our best life, right? So that is how we want to live. So freedom is the key. And the good news is, I love to start with good news. We can overcome it. We can get past it. Lots of people have overcome this that used to have lots of anxiety. So I'm talking today specifically about anxiety, not depression. So freedom is possible, okay? There is always an answer. And what is freedom? So just a real definition here real quick. It's the power or right to act, speak, or think as one wants without hindrance or restraint. So just keep thinking about that. You need to act and think without hindrance, okay? So when we are anxious, then something is restraining us from being free, from being peaceful. So that is just the where we want to start. Now, real quick, many of us stay in bondage even after the person or event or situation has been removed from our lives. So a lot of times, anxiety is caused by events or people or situations, and lots of times those things have been removed from our lives. Sometimes years passed and we're still living in bondage based on what happened to us years ago. And that is mental bondage, and this is what we target, because if you don't have mental freedom, you don't have freedom. Does not matter if you live in a mansion or if you live in a shack. If you don't have mental freedom, emotional freedom, then you are in bondage, and that is not good. So real quick, a definition for anxiety is an abnormal, overwhelming sense of apprehension and fear with physical signs. And it's more than temporary worry and fear. So that is the definition of anxiety. And it can have physical signs, yes. So a lot of times you might break out into a rash, you might get, shaky. It can cause diseases. It can, damage your immune system, and it can lead to a lot of physical signs. And it can definitely interfere with job performance, any activities that you do. School activities for sure, that can give us a lot of anxiety. And just social interactions, A lot of times people with anxiety tend to avoid social interactions because they don't want to deal with people. So there are 3 types of anxiety. There's general anxiety, which is excessive worry about activities and events, even ordinary things that we all do, like going to the grocery store, especially nowadays. Some people have a genuine fear of going to the grocery store. Panic disorder anxiety, which is triggered by external factors like height. Some people have a phobia of height or closed spaces. I have to admit, I've struggled with that one. I don't like to be closed in. For example, being closed in an elevator. No, I don't like that. Anyway, I've overcome that fear, but that's just something that, I never liked. Social anxiety. This can be a chronic health condition in which social interactions cause anxiety, irrational anxiety. All right, so what are some of the signs? I just wanted to very briefly say, because some of you listening might relate to some of these. So excessive worrying, feeling restless or on edge, muscle tension, feelings of worthlessness, excessive guilt, withdrawing from family and friends, reckless behavior, fatigue, changes in sleep patterns, changes in appetite, anger, irritability, physical pain, persistent sadness, trouble concentrating. So these are just some of the signs. You might have recognized some of them in your life. And I just wanted to kind of touch on those for a little bit. So as you can tell, most of these signs that I talked about, they're based on feelings. And let's talk about feelings for just a minute. So feelings come from thoughts, and our thoughts come from our beliefs, right? You got that? So feelings come from thoughts, and our thoughts come from our beliefs. So what is it that makes up our belief system? That is the biggest question. So when we're talking about anxiety, we need to figure out what is at the root. Okay, so remember the root. The root, and some of you who have been listening to me for a while or have been to my seminars, you've heard me talk about this, or you've been counseling with me for a while. I talk about the roots a lot because the root is really where it all begins, and we need to address that. So the root can be, what is the root? Well, it can be so many things. It can be an event or series of events that have happened to you, people, or abandonment, rejection that might have happened to us at some point. Either way, we have to figure out what's causing these feelings, right? And the feelings then lead to the thoughts. The feelings come from the thoughts. But the thoughts, like I said, come from our belief system. So what is it that I am believing that is not right? And unfortunately, a lot of our belief systems are wrong, and we believe them to be true. What's an example? I have to get everything right. I have to be perfect. If I'm not perfect, then what? Then you have to challenge yourself. What is the worst that can happen if you don't do this activity perfectly? Then what? Well, it's not the end of the world, is it? We just have to challenge our belief systems. Or I've counseled people before who, it took them a while to figure this out, but young girls who thought all men are jerks. Was that true? Are all men jerks? No, they're not. There's some good men, So that, if you have that belief system and you never challenge it, you never recognize it, you can go through your entire life with that in your subconscious, and you might get married and it might show up in a very ugly way in your marriage, where you don't trust your husband, and it leads to problems in the relationship. And lots of tension and arguments and whatever, and potentially separation, divorce. Anyway, so we have to target our belief system, the roots. Why is this causing me this way? So an example, I counseled a girl a while back, and she was having major anxiety, and come to find out after much digging, it started with her father. And her father, he tried to be a good dad, and in many ways, like she said, he was, but he was a perfectionist, and he expected perfection from her, and this became a problem in her life because she had a fear of imperfection, and it really caused, as she became a young adult, it caused her to have anxiety, and she did not know where that was coming from, and it was overlapping into other areas. Like she used to love a few years before that to be out in front of people and be on the worship team, and then eventually she was like, I can't be in front of people because what if I screw up, and what if this happens, what if, and we had to go to the root, and come to find out it was because of her dad. Now we had to talk about it. That's a key. We had to really talk about it and challenge that belief system. Okay, so if you're not perfect, if you make a mistake, if you sing a wrong note, whatever, forget the words to a song, is that the end of the world? Do you enjoy singing in front of people? Yes. Would you like to go back to singing from? Yes. Okay, so it's worth the risk, right, of not being perfect all the time. So that's just an example, and we have to question our belief system. Make sense? So very quickly, how to overcome anxiety, because I always like to have practical points. Number one, go to the root. You have to figure out what the root is. Sometimes that can be a little tricky. Find someone that you can talk to. Go to God, ask Him to direct you to the root. There's always a root. If you're feeling anxious about anything, there's always a root. Number two, get on the offense. So pay attention to the things that trigger you. So for example, if, Aunt Sally has, is part of the root cause because she always expects you to behave a certain way, or she said something to you years ago that really made you feel self-conscious and whatever. Avoid Aunt Sally for just a little bit until you get a hold of yourself and get better, because remember, we're trying to change your thoughts, the way you think, right? Okay, so number three, replace wrong beliefs with truth. So in the case of this girl that I was counseling, we had to replace it with, it's okay if you're not perfect. I don't have to be perfect. I literally had her tell herself all the time, I don't have to be perfect at everything I do. It's okay if I'm not. I'm not perfect. Actually tell yourself that. I'm not perfect, and it's okay. I'm good with the way that I am. I'm going to strive to do my best, but I'm not perfect. And nor should I expect myself to be. Number four, bring people into your challenges. So a couple weeks ago, I talked about, doing things on purpose and making plans with people and involving people in your life. Some of you might be loners out there. That's not good. So it's good to have some time alone, yes, here and there to, some people need that. I'm speaking from experience because I'm one of those people. But you need people. You need to have some people, some involvement. There are always people out there that will talk to you, that will, let you talk to them, Make sure it's somebody that you trust, not somebody who's gonna, tell other people about what you told them, whatever. That can't be good, but don't isolate yourself is the point. Then the next one is, anxiety can create tentacles, and it can lead to other things like depression, fear, and worry, and those things are not good. Contrary to popular belief, especially nowadays, I talk to people all the time. They're like, oh, I'm so afraid of this. I'm so afraid of that. What if I get the virus, for example? Okay, what if? What if you get the virus? Okay, well, you could be one of the fortunate ones that 99 point something or other % of people recover quite well, quite nicely from the virus. What if you're in that 0.0 whatever that get the virus? Well, you could potentially get well. You could potentially recover. You might have to spend a couple days at the hospital. And then what if you die? Okay, what if you die? If you are born again and you believe in God, then you're in a better place. So we just work all these things out in our brains and decide, okay, it's not that bad, really. So let me not be afraid. And don't even speak it. Don't speak, I'm afraid. I talk to people about this all the time. Don't even say it. Don't say, I'm afraid of this, I'm afraid of that, I'm afraid this might happen. No, you're not afraid. Fear, God tells us all the time, do not fear. Don't be afraid. Hundreds of times he tells us. I think he means it. So don't be afraid. Don't speak being afraid, because that's not good. And it can lead to worry and so on. And worry is fear, by the way. And worry is not good, so don't tolerate it, ever. Okay. Then the last one, don't incorrectly label other emotions. For example, if you're about to give a speech at work or in class or something, it's normal to feel the jitters, feel a little bit, butterflies, right? And a little bit anxious. Not anxious, I hate to use it in this context, but a little bit excited or nervous. It's normal. That's okay, or you're about to do a concert or something. That's normal. Don't let that throw you off like, oh no, anxiety's back. No, that's not anxiety. It's normal. Everybody feels it. An actor that goes on stage to perform, and they have performed thousands of times, they feel a little bit of the jitters. And that's normal. So bottom line is we want to have peace and we want to have freedom. And if we're not experiencing mental freedom, then there is something wrong. And getting out from the tentacles of anxiety is possible. So freedom is possible. There is an answer. And we have to seek it out. We have to do it on purpose. Nothing in life that is worthwhile is just going to happen. We're going to have to do it on purpose. We're going to have to attack it. We're going to have to be on the offense. And anxiety is no different. And anxiety is so treatable. But we have to be willing. We have to get the right information. And we have to be willing to come out of it. So I wanted to encourage you with these words today. Because I know they have helped so many people. And we want you to live in freedom. And it's important because, like I said, we don't want you to have physical problems too. And we want you to live your best life. So I want to leave you today with Philippians 4, 6 and 7. And it says, do not be anxious about anything, but everything with prayer and thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. So don't be anxious. Just if you're feeling a little bit, apprehensive or anxious today, just talk to God about it. Talk to somebody else about it. But first talk to God. He'll help you. He will help you. He wants to help you. He wants to hear from you. So with that, I hope that helped someone. And again, you can always send me questions, go on the website, or email me. All the information is here on the podcast. You can always send your comments, questions, anything you'd like or if you want me to pray with you or for you about something, also send that. And with that, you guys have an awesome day, and we'll see you next week. We'll talk next week. Bye.
Thanks for listening. You can also follow us on Facebook at Against the Current Ministries and on Instagram at Katya C. Mills.